Hi, everybody!
Hey.
Welcome to the Dungeon Cooldown! Happy Monday!
Happy Monday.
Woo.
Got a case of the Mondays.
Yeah.
We are here with our amazing, lovely, and super talented Jasper and Unati, 2/3 of the Three Black Halflings. Jasper, how are you doing today?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm very,
Yeah?
very good. My life has been very rich in D&D recently, and I'm excited to get to talk a bit more about it, especially this
Yeah.
two-shot, because it was so good, and I feel like
man,
there's just something,
I
I have
didn't
questions.
want it to end. Yeah,
Yeah, I really didn't want it to end. That could have easily been a campaign. I could happily play
Yeah.
CC for a long time.
for sure.
Very
Well,
very
and
good.
CC's a deep character. I mean, there's a lot going on with CC.
Yeah.
People
Way-
barely saw the surface of that character.
Way too much for a two-shot is what there is to CC.
Oh, that reminds me.
Jasper goes full.
Yes, he does. And I love that. When I was telling Jeff about the two-shot and what have you, I then described your character to Jeff. His reaction was priceless. He just kind of sat there for a second, thought about it, and then was like, yeah, I wouldn't let anybody play that.
That's why I brought it to you and not Jeff.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we'll see, Jeff.
I was
one
like,
day.
it's a two-shot. Let him play whatever he wants, you know?
yeah.
If he wants to
Well, good.
play a changeling. And I mean, some of the races are more broken than others. Like if you look at, you know, Eric Hooker and what have you, that's a bigger thing to tackle than you being able to
flight
essentially...
is a
Switch. Yeah,
flight is a pain. Flight is a pain. And look, changelings can't change their clothes, so it's not all.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It doesn't all
It's not
work.
easy.
Yeah,
Doesn't
and you
all
ran
work.
into that
Yep.
head on.
Yep.
Unati, lovely as always. How are you?
Hi, I am doing really, really well. I feel like I'm that dog emoji and going, this is fine. This is fine.
The one
But
with
I'm
the
good.
background on fire. That
Yeah,
one?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that one. Yeah. This
I
is
know that
totally
one.
fine. I'm totally cool. I'm great.
Yeah.
I'm really great. and yourself.
Good. I am coming off a rough weekend, so I'm just happy to be here talking to three lovely
Great.
people. Jessica, how are you?
I'm great. I came off of a really great weekend. I went camping in the Sequoias, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jealous.
I'm back to
Nice.
reality today.
Equals jealous.
Yeah, really relaxing weekend. One of my friends is still here actually, and she's I played Dungeons and Dragons with her. Our first time was together in our first campaign together, so
Oh, nice.
it's she's like
Amazing.
sitting in the background listening to our conversation.
Cool.
I do want to say hi to everybody who arrived in chat early. Hi to Passion Envisioned, That Gamer Share, hello, Eldritch Witch, Witch Space, Sir Darvin, hi Phoenix Factory, Borkware Mark D, The Bard 1971, Gateway Guy, thank you so much for showing up for our show every Monday. We love seeing you in chat, and we have questions from our Patreon. If we get through those, we'll definitely be checking chat and answering questions from you guys here too, and we appreciate all of the support
Yes.
that you guys give us. So thank you so much.
Yes. And Jessica, thank you for always remembering to give shout outs to people because I
Yeah.
am terrible at that.
It's like all over it.
And it looks
Yeah.
like we did get a sub from David Gen Pro. 5
Yay.
months, 5-month streak. I think that's the entire time that we've
Nice.
been alive on Twitch.
On
So
Twitch,
thank you. And if you didn't know, you can subscribe to our channel for free if you have an Amazon Prime subscription.
Oh.
And this show, yeah, it's a great deal. This show is made possible by our Patreon. So if you want to join our Patreon and you want to ask us specific questions, or if you want to get in on all of our secret behind the scenes things, we have cast secrets, we do shout outs, we have new merchandise coming soon where we're going to give out discount codes.
For real
there's-
this time. We
Yeah.
switched companies, and we're Ron is going hard on the merch. He overnight seemingly just recreated all of our merch and did such a fabulous job. So we're very excited to show that to you
Yeah,
guys.
it's going to be very cool. I'm going to be buying all new wardrobe.
Yeah. Yeah. That's normally what happens, right, when you do merch. It's just like, I'm just going to order one of everything on
Yeah.
this list
Yeah.
here. Great.
Thank
Yep.
Shut up and take my money, and I am now.
Yeah.
So we have a lot to do in very little time. So I would love to jump
Get
right
into
into it.
this.
We're going to answer a
Go
few
for it.
questions. Then we're going to, I think, switch over and have Jessica do a little show and tell.
Yes.
Then I would like to talk about the aftermath of the Sapphire
Yes,
Lights
please.
Festival to see what happens with this beautiful thing.
Oh my god, I want it. Oh my god, Layla wants that so badly. Oh my god, Layla is like regretting all of her life choices right now.
Mesmerizing.
We should have thought ahead of time so we could have done some cool trick where we all kind of like, you know, seemingly just pulled it out of the zoo.
And I just had like a sapphire the size of my head and was like,
Yeah. And then if we have time at the very end, we'll answer some more questions. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump
Sounds
into
fun.
these. Fectious asks, how hard was it to D&D until past 6 a.m. UK time? Did your head get fuzzy during the game, and how long did it take to recover?
That's
a great first question.
This is a great question because this was a fun experience.
Experience and exercise, wow.
I'm pretty sure I remember Unati having a jug of coffee.
Yeah. Like,
You had,
I
like, a
was
full jug.
mainlining caffeine. Like, I was like, get it in me.
Yeah.
Uh,
After a while though, does it still do anything for you? Like I drink caffeine constantly, and I'm just wondering
Yeah.
after a while, like you can only get so much into your body, and then I feel
Yeah.
like at some point you plateau, right?
Yeah, I also like I kind of feel like at a certain point it's just like a placebo effect. It's just like if it's hot and brown, like if you just give it that like that dark brown, right? If it's hot and brown, and then I can feel like I'm awake.
But that's
It
the
gives
thing
me-
is, when you're playing at that point in the evening or in the morning, all you need is a plateau. That's all you need. It's just to stay on
Yeah.
the same level.
We're just yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was begging for a plateau. Like that was all
Yeah.
I needed.
I was surprised that
pass
you
out.
that you two didn't get a little bit more loopy. Like you stayed very focused, which I appreciate because it's a 2-shot, so we only have so much time. So how long did it take you guys to recover from staying up that late to game with us?
Go ahead.
day?
Kamal. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you go.
I was kind of fine the following day because I had to like wake up and like get back to work, but I think that it came from So I have never worked more hard in my life than when I was at drama school.
That's the truth.
Because like you've got like 60 contact hours a week, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
enough.
yeah.
You're going home, you're learning lines, you're coming back, you're doing like rapier and dagger stuff, so you're exhausted. Like I was in like my week 10, like week 8 to 10 drama school headspace. I was like, all right, I'm used to this headspace.
Sure.
So then I knew that I just had to like get up in the morning, so I made sure that I had my my delivery coffee order from the coffee shop around the corner ready to come at my door at 6 o'clock, so that woke me up.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, cool, mainline caffeine, get on with it. And then after that, I slept for like a little bit. I slept for a minute. It was fine.
yeah.
It was okay. And then I talked to my therapist and it was all good.
Yeah,
It's
I feel
a
like
full day right there.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it was for me. It was like there genuinely is something in that. Like I feel like as an actor, there has been times where like I've experienced being so extremely tired, but like
Yeah.
I'm on stage and I'm doing a thing and I can't drop the ball because there's an audience,
Yeah.
right? So like
Yeah.
I think that just kind of kicked in. Like there was an instinct where I was just like, you just
Yeah.
don't stop, you don't drop the ball. You're still in the scene with your partner. You still got to be generous. You still got to,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? And I think it was just that. And then literally straight afterwards, I fell asleep right over there. And then I woke up 4 hours later and was just like, let's go. I had a job interview the next day and I got it,
Oh
everyone.
wow.
And I got it. So
Ooh.
how about that?
Congrats. Very
So,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just gotta make it work. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gotta make it
for
work.
sure. Gotta make it work.
All right, cool. Next question. The Carson. Through social media, especially through Twitch, I've found that D&D or tabletop games in general are not as popular in some places. In your experience, how does the tabletop scene compare in the UK to the US?
Whoa,
That's a good question.
Most of our audience is over in the States, for sure. And I think that what I would say is it was like, the difference is that like there's a real like community feel, I think, in the US. Like the cons and stuff are just a bit more like present. Whereas like we have like a few, like we have like one really big, like we have like one really big like Comic Con like in London, and then like there's some like smaller cons which like I've been to like one in Manchester and I saw one in like Scotland as well, and like but they're pretty small by comparison. Like
Sure.
they're like really like niche things. Whereas in
Yeah.
the States I feel like it's much more of a like constant thing, and you know like you guys have had game studios and whatever for forever, you know. So I think part of it is that there's just more of a community here. But I mean, hey, look, we've got listeners in New Zealand who listen to our pod, and do you know what I mean? So I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, it's like all over the place, yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose for like myself, like coming from South Africa and also like finding TTRPGs later on in life, but also having been a nerd for like the majority of my entire life, whatever that means, quote unquote. Like, I suppose where I come from, for in my personal experience, it's always kind of felt like it's been this weird space that has been kind of dominated by a particular group. And it makes it quite hard to sort of get into, but it does exist. And like what I find really interesting is like they're not like making the reviews on the actual podcast. Please make the reviews on the podcast for South African. They're like texting me. I'm like, that doesn't help our algorithm.
Leave it on the review. Like, yeah.
Put it on the route. But like, yeah. So I do think, yeah, like in Southern Africa, like, you know, being a little slightly like left of field or whatever is a bit odd. And there's so many other things that everyone's trying to deal with, let alone like, you know, nerddom, let alone like trying to like break that down into TTRPGs. So yeah, there's a different space, but what I find is that the American audience has been really receptive. And for me, like the UK space, where I discovered this stuff, has been like really opening, and I feel incredibly free here. But the other day, randomly went to high school with this girl. Their name is Faith. And out of the blue, haven't spoken to them for like 10 years, messaged me saying, oh, my girlfriend was listening to a podcast in the car, I heard the voice, and I was like, I recognize that voice. It's like, oh, it's Unati, it's you. And then she was like, oh, how you doing? This guy, congratulations. So like, it's a really like big international community, which feels good as well.
Yeah.
Sure. So do you guys have a regular game going with the Three Black Halflings, or is it just like one shots and two shots here and there?
So we're actually in the middle of filming our second season. So we're literally right in the middle of it. Probably be announcing it soon as well. So like keep an eye out for that. It's an incredible homebrew setting that Jeremy has come up with. Like we've homebrewed loads of stuff for it. Yeah. We've got 3 amazing guests as well, and like but like we get to play that quite a lot. And
that's
pretty much always playing
audio only. Is it a podcast?
Yeah, that's audio only.
Okay.
Yeah. We tried the video game for a bit, but it's look, you guys are doing the work. Okay, video is it's having a whole dynamic that I was just like, nah, I'm out.
Technical aspect there.
Yeah, but also like before that, we have like a whole season of The Cupboard and the Caterpillar, which is based off the Wagadu setting created by Alan Kadisho and the lovely people at Twin Drums, and like that's a whole other sphere, like kind of taking taking D&D rather, and running with it and incorporating like different cultures and other inspirations, which is really exciting, and in a way that feels open and inclusive to everyone, right? Like there's no like gatekeeping that space, and like if you want to learn more about other spaces, dive in.
Thank you, Hadrian X, by the way, who's said that Cover the Caterpillar is great.
I saw that in the chat. It's very cool.
Very cool.
So is this new campaign, are you guys allowed to talk about it at all? Can we get an exclusive?
Leave that to Jeremy. I mean, to Jasper. I'm sorry, I'm tired and I'm working.
No. Well, I will say at least this: it is a Africa-inspired setting, but with a very different flavor added in. And we've got, I will say that we've got a friend from another show, which I recently DM'd for. So any of you who are NADPOD fans, there is a guest appearance from someone from NADPOD on there.
You tried to skirt around that, and then you were like, NADPOD.
Very cool.
Look, listen, I'm a name drop that for at least another 6 months, okay?
Yeah, like, do what you gotta do. Live your life, King. Live your life.
About name dropping. Very cool. Well, when is that coming out? When can we catch that?
26th will be the date of the first episode, and if you want to catch a couple episodes at once, you can join our Patreon, and there will be a little multi-episode drop. It will be either 3 or 5, depending on our production timeline. But there will be some and plus extra stuff, like we do like stuff like this where we talk about the game and whatever afterwards. Yeah, we call them like campfire chats. Yeah,
of course. Very cool. Okay, next question is Thomas Bickley. Question for Jasper. During this scenario, you seem to fall into the role of de facto leader. Is that a role you often find yourself in? And if so, is it one you enjoy or begrudgingly accept?
I think that one of the things I loved, like I love directing. Directing is one of the jobs that I love more than anything. But not because I like to be like in charge. It's because I love like facilitating. Like I really enjoy like being the support that brings like stuff out of people. And I think I would say like my de facto is that like I love bringing people like into stuff with me and being like, hey, let's go on an adventure together. Like that just really gets me excited. And so I think that like naturally then if like because I'm usually the most excitable person in the room, I'm then just doing that like with people and people are like, okay, this is kind of fun, I'll go with him.
Yeah, like so like as a little bit of a caveat to that answer for Jasper, like in terms of like how the podcast sort of started in terms of like me joining it, I was minding my own damn business in my garden. I was washing my hair in apple cider vinegar because as a black woman, y'all know, like when you pray, you gotta wash it in apple cider vinegar and soak it and put it out in the sun to dry. And I was looking at my source books, whatever, having a good time, being like, oh, I'm gonna get into D&D. And then Jasper decided to teleport into my fucking garden, rip me out of the space-time continuum, and be like, Three Black Halflings.
and allow Unati to do her best work, which is like on the pod, like she's amazing, and the pod wouldn't be the same without
For
her.
sure.
So like that
like,
was
Jasper's
why.
great at that.
For sure.
That was why. It's what
One little thing that I'll comment on is that I noticed it wasn't necessarily so much that CC or Fitz was like the leader. I felt like he was more like the guy that was like, all right, what do you do? And what do you do? And what do you do? And how, and what's going on? And how are we piecing this together? And okay, let's work as a group. It was more like the Lily of our campaign, where you need somebody that's the glue, you need somebody that kind of like connects the dots and like you're saying, facilitates.
And I would say, to answer the question, I really do. I do enjoy that role. Like I find it very enriching for me because I feel like I then get to touch base with like everyone else's characters and find out what makes them tick. And I find that to be like one of the more rewarding parts of TTRPGs is getting to like connect with like my friends who I know and love, but like now as like someone else, or there was a different interpretation, or now all this cool stuff, And plus also in this scenario, I got to connect with some incredible players and people who I like love and had revered, and I watched Dungeon Run, I've watched Jess play loads, and so it was so amazing and delightful to then get to like riff with Jess. Do you know what I mean? So any opportunity I had to do that, I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like
honestly, like working with Arton was just like a creme de la creme for me.
Arton was definitely the true leader for sure.
Katie
misguided, but true.
Yeah.
Was the
Katie always brings
leader
characters.
nonetheless.
Yeah, Katie always brings characters to the game where you're just like, are you gonna be helpful at all? And then she'll do something that's just mind-blowingly different than what most gamers would do, and it completely takes the storytelling in a new avenue. And it's so thrilling and exciting to either be a part of or just to watch because it's different, because it's not the quintessential, well, I'm a fighter, therefore I do this, and I'm a rogue, and therefore I do this. I mean, Otten was a paladin, and how many paladin things did Otten do other than just protect the mayor? And
that's the beauty of collaborative storytelling, and also the course that we trained on, which was CDT, collaborative device storytelling.
Honestly, Otten though, I was dying every time Katie spoke. I was just like I was finding it so hard to keep it together because it was just so funny. Like it was really, really funny, and I was just like, man, and every time.
Beautiful, so
great.
simple, so clean.
Yeah.
Agreed. And Otten only had an intelligence of 6, which I think you guys discovered. I think you guys discovered about halfway through the game. I was like, oh, she's playing that intelligence real hard right now. And you guys were just confused, like, are you for real right now? And then later on, you're like,
oh, it's actually 6.
Yeah.
You're
it's
real.
It's
okay,
dumb.
right.
You're real dumb.
Okay. Question for everyone except Jared. Okay. If you had to run a game for this group 24 hours from now, what would you run? Unati, why don't you throw your hand into this one? Do you ever run? Do you ever run a?
Yeah, I do.
yeah?
I do run games, but like I'm
She's
a
a
bit
very good DM.
sometimes a bit like I'm a little bit weird sometimes. But like there's one game that I really want to run, and it's based. Has anyone seen The Raid?
No.
Yeah.
So so if I could run a game in 24 hours with everybody, I would get everybody to essentially run a game of The Raid. It's a great Malaysian film directed by an awesome director, and basically what you are like essentially a SWAT team, and you're all amazing. So essentially like DM's worst nightmare, right? Like an entire party of basically monks and rogues and fighters.
Yeah. It's like like an all action
I'm
like
looking it up right now.
but everyone is Bruce Lee in this film.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
everyone is Bruce Lee. Like
I
it's
would,
wild.
I would give you all of that because like I wouldn't want to be like that mean DM who's like everyone's Bruce Lee and like I'm better at that. I'd be like you are all insanely incredible and your task is to get from the bottom floor to the top floor as cops, get your target out and come out, but there's like a whole emotive story in there, just inside one location. And I would love to run that just because I don't know, I've loved martial arts since I was a kid, so
Sure.
come on, bring me
Love it.
some.
Love it. Jasper, what would you run?
What would I run? I
Granted,
would probably
so you don't get to plan very much.
Sure. Okay. Don't get
Yeah.
to plan very much. I would probably run a. Do you know what? I've genuinely started doing this recently. Like completely improvised games.
Oh yeah,
and
I've done that a lot.
It's so much, and like I generally as a DM like to improvise a lot. Like because I always like to pull things out so I can make the moment as like rewarding for a player as possible. And
Yep.
so like I would genuinely love if I had this group of players, we just run a completely improvised game where like we start off with like someone like from the audience whatever would give us like one key in line.
Oh, I want to do
And
that.
I'd be like, and we
Yeah.
would just go. Like
I've never done that
that would
before.
be the
That'd be
yeah.
so fun.
Yeah.
Like you'd have characters and stuff, but like I'd probably even say like elements of the character wouldn't be fixed. Like we could decide what like your ability scores are. Like you know, in the first half an hour, we'd be like, oh, you seem like you're pretty strong, so okay, you can take the 16 in strength or whatever. And then you know, eventually you would get the characters, and then we'd just riff and see what happened. It'd be very fun. I
Oh
think.
my God,
Sure.
Jared, we got to do this at like the Second City stage here.
Yes. So there's a concept that I've been toying with in my mind that's very similar to this, where the way you find out who your character is by other people telling you who you are.
Yeah.
So
It's great.
you're about ready to go into a tavern, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know if we should go into this tavern, Dragonborn," and you're like, "Oh, then I'm a Dragonborn. I didn't know
Okay.
that." You know,
Yeah,
and then you
That's
add that
fun.
onto your list of but you can't
fun.
say anything about who you are. Only other people can tell you who you, you know. Yeah.
Character lists. It's that fourth
Exactly.
plane. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That'd be
Yeah.
very, very
Definitely
Will
a
Leicester
one
420
shot.
says, whose dungeon is it anyway?
exactly.
Exactly.
What about you, Jess? What would you run?
I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to say Yelithamore, which is the homebrew world that my co-host on Hello Goodberry, my own Twitch channel, has homebrewed, created herself. And I would say, psst, Alex, come in here. GM this game for us. And it's set in a fantasy academy setting where she's created all of these different classes and majors essentially that you can study, and it was just so magical, and all of her characters were so memorable, and it was like a 4-shot or 5-shot, I think, and we were all so sad to leave the world, so I would love to return.
Nice.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But wouldn't you would have to run it, right?
But I'm cheating with the question. I'm gonna just like
Okay.
I'm gonna psst, Alex, get in here. Come here.
It's
Put
okay
someone
to
else
cheat
in.
if you just say I'm cheating.
Okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
All right, that's fair.
That's the rules of the cooldown now.
Thomas Bickley, you have so many great questions, but I want to give other people a shot, so I'm going to move on to the next one. Dr. Sparks, for everyone, what do you like and hate most about limited run games, 1 and 2 shots? Oh, I could go on and on about this.
What do we hate the most?
Well,
What do you
Jared,
like?
why don't you go
what do you
first?
like,
Yeah.
and what do you hate the most about running or being in 1 or 2 shots? So the thing,
Yeah, I think you should
that I love about 1 and 2 shots, and this happened in your guys' 2 shot, is that everybody feels that sense of time. Like we're all performers, especially, so we really feel the sense of like, okay, we need to move. And so there's very rarely is there a dull spot or a moment where it's like, okay, we've been shopping for 2 hours. Who cares about the price of this short sword? Like in a one shot or a two shot, it's all about just pushing that plot as fast as possible. That's what I love, is that sense of rush and time. And you don't even necessarily have to, like, you know, if you have good players, you don't even have to create a strong sense of motivation. The players will motivate themselves usually.
Yes.
What I hate, one of the things that I hate about one shots and two shots is when there's usually a moment at some point where you know that this moment could have been so much more juicy.
Oh yeah.
Or it could have been so much more fulfilling had you had the time, but you just don't. Like there was a moment in the show where I was like, man, I could have had half an episode with you guys talking to Queen Mab. Half an episode with you guys.
That could have been a whole
forth.
thing with Mab. I think that could have been a whole episode easy.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't have time for this. You guys just need to make a decision. There's snakes. What are you gonna do? You know? And that hurts. It hurts as a storyteller, as a dungeon master, as a player. Like, I don't want to rush you guys, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, we need to, you know, we need to move on to that next thing, because I want to be able to get to the ending, you know. And it stings when you know that there could be an even better moment of storytelling that you have to kind of push or rush just to get to an end point. And some one shots and two shots, and this often happens in the ones that I see online, they don't even get to any kind of ending. There is no wrap up. There's nothing. It just ends when it ends. You know, they could be in the middle of a fight, they could be in the middle of a scene, and it's like, well, we're out of time, guys. Sorry, bye. And that sucks too.
Yeah. I would second the time constraint is fun, and the other element I enjoy as a DM when I run them is the fact that I feel like I can be a bit more like railroady with the story, which has its uses, right? Like it definitely it means you can sculpt a story and a narrative a bit more than you can, because everyone kind of is aware, okay, this is a one shot, like we're not gonna like you said, we're not gonna sit and just spend a whole bunch of time shopping, right? We're gonna get on with it and do the thing, and so you can be a bit more specific with the story you want to tell. The issue that I run into more when I DM than when I play is just like I just end up going, oh man, that moment. Like I regret stuff a lot. Like I gotta go like I just missed that, or like you're in the middle of something, you're trying to juggle all this stuff, and because you don't already have that like beat to like, okay, right, what am I doing? Where am I at? Like, you know, because even if you're doing a pre-recorded thing, you're still kind of aware of everyone's time, etc. And so you kind of, there comes a point where you go like, oh, I completely beefed that combat because actually I forgot this thing that they do and this thing, and then you know, and it becomes it's a juggling act. It's a wild juggling act trying to do one and two shots, and that is why, Jared, you did such a great job. So
so good.
Applause to you.
It's so good.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, I think like for me, like I'm just gonna like wrap it up in like in two key phrases. First phrase is kill your darlings, because there you are. You've planned as a DM, you plan all the stuff, and you got to kill your darlings, right? Like you're this could be so great, but I got to let it go and move on. And then the next one is, I will quote Brennan Monaghan on this until I die. It's time to arc these arcs. It's arc these arcs, man. Like arc these arcs. Like it's time to like push through, arc the arcs, get through the thing. And I think that like that's what, especially like a recorded or live or even pre-recorded one or two shot does, is that you have to go, okay, cool, where's my character going? Where like if you were at a home game, like you would have loads of time to discover but like now you kind of got to be like, right, I'm the crazy warlock, or I'm the crazy like jewel thief, I've got to do this, right?
So long as you're crazy, yes.
As long as you're crazy. I did like,
and has knives. That's Unati's thing.
I did prefix this with like crazy. It always has knives, and also always hungry and always good.
Wait, so all of your characters have knives and are hungry? Have you played a chef yet?
I have a character actually in Jeremy's home game where somebody has finally given me the chefy. And then like and then I was like, I looked at it and I was like, oh god, this is actually useful. I just thought that like I had a chefy. This is actually useful. So like I really love it. Like usually all of my characters, one of my other characters had a spice pouch, like the spices, and I was like, I made sure it had cayenne pepper, chilies, and garlic in it, because cayenne pepper in a battle, right?
Yeah, that suck.
Into people's eyes. Tell everyone not to breathe. Very clear.
Love it.
But also, like,
Jessica?
My favorite part is creating insane characters, for sure. These characters that you would never play in a long campaign
Frick.
because they just don't make
Yeah.
any sense at all. Yeah. I mean, even Elodie, that would be... I wouldn't... I don't know, I wouldn't... She
Oh, I
probably
thought she
wouldn't
was
be the same.
perfect for a long-term character.
I think I would make a
Yeah,
few
I
adjustments to her. I
Sure.
just didn't have her full backstory figured out, and I would want to do that. I don't think she would be as...
You were woven from a 500-year-old
innocent.
birch tree.
Yeah.
And then that's also kind of on the flip side, the part that I hate the most is these characters kind of have to be loud and big so that you can arc those arcs, and they have something that you can really grab onto and play really fast, as opposed to Brick, this character that I brought to our short campaign with Amy, which was a character I had created in a longer term campaign that I never got a chance to play. And so he has all this amazing backstory, and it feels better to play him in a shorter campaign because I have more to draw from. But at the same time, it's not as fruitful because those things never get played out.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Word.
I feel like Cece's probably like a character that I'd be like, this is way too complicated for a long campaign. Like I'd get stressed playing Cece in a long campaign, you know. Whereas
You
in a
literally
too
develop
short-
split personalities after
Yeah,
a while.
exactly. Like a lot of it, like I could play for like, hey, this was kind of like there was funny moments where like the multiple personalities, but like over a long campaign, like, whew, I'd get
Cool,
tired.
yeah, exactly. That's a lot. But like for me, I will go back to like my early TBH days and just go like, just stick to your task. Like if it's a small campaign, that's why I want to be a rogue and I'm a thief. Okay, cool. Like just stick to that.
Done.
And I'm also like, you don't actually have to like just stick to archetypes. But for me, I find that kind of easier. Is that if I have an archetype, then I know that I can deviate from it and do like crazy stuff on the end of it. But I have something that is really drawing me back to where I'm at.
Like a foundation, yeah. Sure.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to run out of time and miss out on your show and tell, Jess. So why don't we skip to that, and then after that we can talk about the aftermath of Sapphire, and then we'll do a couple more questions.
So one of our community members, J Rock, took my singing from the one shot and created backup music to it. He orchestrated this music. There's actually an orchestral version as well that I received too late, but he sent to me to even possibly use in the show itself. But I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to pause the background music, and I'm going to play for you this compilation that he made, and it's so impressive. I can't wait to share it. Okay.
I can't hear it.
I sent it to you guys in the chat because it's going to come through a little bit delayed if you're watching the Twitch channel. Okay. Ready? So here we go. There it is, everybody!
Yay!
And that was his backup vocals as well, because he sent me a version, and I was like, J-Rack, I would love it if you could sing with me, because he has been in touch with me about other music streams I've done on Hello Goodberry, and we've talked about collaborating in some way, so I'm so glad that it was finally realized, and that this is so beautiful, and we get to share it with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super gorgeous. It's giving me like strong Jolene.
Yeah.
Sure.
I know. The original melody was
Guys.
"Come on, come on, it's time," and I was like, "Oh no, Oh no, I gotta change that. So come on.
Copyright.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning. It got a lighter moment from me.
Yeah, thank you.
And I was like, this is my last light and it's dying, so please acknowledge that.
And then you rolled a 1 on your
Yeah.
performance.
Oh,
And it was so beautiful. But, like, no.
I must admit there needs to be. I don't know how you felt, Jess, but I felt like there's some acknowledgement to Jared, like how you still managed to spin that as like something incredible happened, and it
Yeah.
wasn't just like, because it would have been so easy for that moment to have just been like either just like really jarring and like not worked, because it was clearly a great performance, you know what I
Sure.
mean?
Sure.
But like, and it would have also, but also at the same time it would have felt wrong if it was just like, we'll just ignore the 1. So like, I really do think you handled that moment so perfectly.
Thank you.
Like, because everyone
Class
enjoyed
DM.
everyone enjoyed the moment, and
Yeah.
then there was this like weird twist on it where, like, I just thought it was
It really
nice.
fleshed out for me in my mind who Queen Mab was, because it for a while there I was like, who do I want Queen Mab to be? And she's not evil at all, and she's not good either. So what is she? And then I was like, oh, she's selfish. Okay, I like that. And as soon as she starts to see one of her disciples get more attention than her, she's jealous. And I was like, how perfect is that if Queen Mab is all about, messing with lovers, because she sees what they have and she wants it for herself, and either she can't have it or she messes it up herself. Because I'm playing with the idea of, there's not a lot about Queen Mab, but if you like Google Queen Mab, there's not a lot there. So I'm essentially just using the Shakespeare. I'm just using,
That, like,
I see Queen Mab
archetype,
has been with you, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. Yeah. So yeah. And rolling that 1 not only helped the storytelling of that moment, but it helped flesh out who that NPC was, which is why when you guys got to the fairy ring and actually met her, spoiler alert, then I was like, I know exactly who she is and what she's going for, in this moment. Yeah. So she had a strong motivation because Jessica rolled a 1 because of that moment. So I feel like ones and 20s are storytelling gifts. Those are the moments where you're like,
100%.
yeah, oh, okay, I have to pay attention to this. This is important. What does this mean for the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and sometimes
just,
1s and 20s outside of combat mean more.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because if you get a crit and kill
Absolutely.
someone, that's over. That's the end of that story. It's done.
Although technically, I think I read or heard somewhere that natural 20s, like, you don't get critical successes or fails on non-combat roles in Dungeons and Dragons. Technically,
Technically,
lies,
yes.
will go away.
but I've
Technically,
never
yes.
ever played it like that. Every game I've ever played
Right.
it,
That would be
a nat 20 is a
boring.
nat 20.
Do you want
think-
to know why? Because it's better storytelling if it does mean something. It's better
Yeah.
storytelling.
Well, that's why I wonder why it's not in the rules.
Well,
Well, I think-
because
You mean
they
60.
want they want you to not be able to succeed on certain tasks. So if you have a player that's like, I want to, I don't know, charm this undead lich with my persuasion roll, and it's like, well, you can't, but I'll let you roll anyways. Oh, I got a natural 20, so
Oh man,
you
that's
have
happened
to
so many
do it.
times.
You as the dungeon master have to let me charm them. It's like,
Mhm.
well, no, I can still be like, no, the DC was 30 and you
Yeah.
got a 25.
Yeah, and there's always caveats, right? Like there's always like a limit to how well something can go. Like if it is something that is like a near impossible task, I might be like, okay, so here's what does happen, and it could
Sure.
be like in the ballpark. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're trying to jump across a gap which you physically cannot jump, but you roll a nat 20, maybe I'll say that instead of like falling to your death, you manage to grab on the other side, but you're still like 50 feet down.
yeah.
Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like it's still,
Yes.
and
I
you
think
still
that's
take
what
some
Or
damage.
you're hanging
but-
on by one arm, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the kind of thing that I would go for. Like you take some damage, but like you make it across or whatever. Like
Yeah, Jeff never does like hardly ever. I won't say never, but hardly ever does miraculous successes. There's always some kind of like realistic success
Caveat.
with
Yeah.
the natural 20s, like you
Yeah,
just
and-
explained.
Yeah, and I also think like it depends on the world that you're in. Like in
And the
my
kind of
home
game you're
game.
playing.
Yeah, like
Sure.
in my home game, like if somebody wants to leap over like a chasm, like in the ground, whatever, and jump over, like I could easily resolve a nat 20 as like your ancestors lift you up, right? But like
Sure.
if you're in a game of like classic D&D, like who's lifting you up?
Yeah, who's up? Like you're not like if you're not a paladin or a cleric or something, like who is doing it? Yeah.
Lifting you up? Who?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, I think it's that time, Jess. I think we all want to know. Elodie, okay, so this is the moment. This is the moment that we kind of ended on,
no.
just to kind of give you a minor recap for those of you that have either seen it or not seen it. If you haven't seen it, then you're getting everything spoiled. So there you go.
There you go.
So
Here's
at the
episode 1
very
in chat.
So at the very end, Layla pulls the gem out of the avatar of Scylla, which is a bone naga, and she rips it out. The bone crumbles. The bone bounce about down below you, but you leapt off of it just in time and land on that higher raised area. Then you climb down to where Elodie is at and very reluctantly hand over this insanely valuable item, worth a king's ransom or a queen's ransom.
I really
to
wanted it. Yeah.
yes, to Elodie, and she is forced into that moment where she needs to choose what she is going to do with it. Do you hand it over to Queen Mab? Do you return it to the mayor and the city? Do you place it back inside of Scylla's mouth and all of a sudden reveal that you're a cultist and you've been worshiping Scylla all along? What do you do with the gem?
So, I think if I had created her with a longer term campaign in mind, she would have acted differently throughout this story. Given the way that I did play her, I think it would make the most sense for her to do the right thing and to take the sapphire to Queen Mab, maybe secondly to the mayor. However, it's always been my greatest desire to play a bad guy, to play a villain. I always want my D&D characters to be the origin story of a villain. That's like my greatest desire. And so I think I would take this opportunity to have her keep the sapphire. And
For yourself?
Yes, keep it
Oh.
and try to wield its power and either release my essence or whatever I am from my body and perhaps inhabit something else, which becomes my villainous body, or the DM punishes me in some way and tells me something chaotic happens with this sapphire, and then I just play it from there.
Well, first
Look
we're
at,
gonna
look
roll
at this.
initiative.
Hold on,
regrets.
look at. I just want chat to notice the stink eye that you are getting from Jasper and Unati.
I have all the regrets because, like, I want to just, like, take the sapphire and fucking bolt.
You were all trying. You were all
In that
trying.
on that incredible stealth roll, I would have been
Oh.
dead to all of you. You would have never found me.
Yeah.
But I came back and I was like, you know what? My friends that I just
Yeah.
met need this. And now you're telling me you're going to keep it to yourself. So what I do then, actually, damn it, Jared, I roll to knock it out of Andy's hands and run into the night.
You'll definitely
Yeah.
get that roll. I'm a wooden doll. I'm like,
Yeah.
I roll to speed it from her and run. I roll to grab Elodie and just run away with her. That's where I'm the Jared.
Okay.
Well, I
so
think
essentially,
that-
there was going to be some player character on player character fighting at this moment.
Well, I think essentially what happens is that CC now begins a long mission to hunt down their arch nemesis. Their now new arch nemesis, an Elodie,
Yeah.
because now they are
that's the next
enslaved.
episode.
They're enslaved to Queen Mab. So
Yeah.
after CC tried to help Elodie in the forest and tried to help
Yeah.
Elodie out of a pickle that they were
we all
that she
had
was
Elodie's
in,
back,
and
right?
yeah, and now Elodie is stabbed me in the back, and
Feels like
you
it's
know.
not okay, right? You know, it feels like it's not
you know.
okay.
Well, who's to say Elodie doesn't become your new patron? She bestows gifts and luck upon the party.
Hey, look, if you want to fight Mab for me and take care of that whole situation,
I think
then
she's gonna have to, because she basically stole the sapphire from Mab.
Yeah.
She's gonna have to
Yeah,
fight.
Maybe
him.
Mab will be too angry at you to like remember that CC Jeremy.
Absolutely.
Jeremy. I'm so used to calling Jeremy my DM. That was really bad. I do
It's all
apologize.
good. Now we
Jared-
just need to have Jeremy on the show.
They have,
Well,
like,
we do
exactly.
need to have Jeremy
Yeah.
on the show. But when I do like if CC runs now, donning a different disguise, is CC just like trapped in some sort of horrible nightmare where no matter which way they go, they keep facing like the center of the woods? Is that the situation that we're in? Like that's what I'm imagining in my head, is that Mab is just like always in front of me regardless of which way I turn.
She's a little more subtle than that. But I was thinking all along is that and you guys never caught his name. His name was Scrizzlebucket, the little detritus creature.
Scrizzlebucket, that weirdo.
Scrizzlebucket.
Yeah.
Yes, Scrizzlebucket.
What a name.
He was watching you all along. Everywhere you went, he was right
Aw.
there, just hanging out.
Super creepy.
Yeah. And
Okay,
he was
okay.
gonna go back to Mab and be like, "Well, they got the gem, but sorry, they decided to keep it. So yeah."
Okay, okay,
CC
so
did not.
Jared-
CC was ready to return it.
Yeah, I was ready
Yeah.
to return to you. So, like, Jared,
Yeah.
I got a question. So, really, like, Layla doesn't really care. As a sapphire, as a sapphire, as a sapphire. So, can I go back to the town and go find that corset? Like, that's what I'm saying. Is like, do I have
Sure.
Oh
time
yeah, yeah.
to like figure it out and at least leave this town with like a bag of corsets? Like a
You
like
mean a
like
bag of gems?
Yeah, a bag of sapphires. Like
Yeah.
or like a yeah. That's what I mean.
Well, I mean, I was gonna have
At the
some
very
more
least.
treasure inside of the mouth of the
Mm.
old mine as well. So if you guys had decided to actually like loot that
Explore it,
area,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I would have absolutely looted it.
yeah.
Uh,
And
I
another
will-
another thing that I was going to throw out there is that originally, and I didn't have enough time to do this, but originally I wanted the cultists, including Lady Marguerite. I didn't want them to turn into snakes. I was going to have them turn into snake people. So they were going to be,
Ah.
they were actually going to be the
Yuan-ti.
birth of the Yuan-Ti. That was going to be in this
nice.
world, the Yuan-Ti. That's how they were going to be born, is those
Ooh.
cultists.
Really cool. Really,
Yeah.
really cool.
And she
Ooh.
came from a long line of people that were indigenous to that area, so that's why she felt
Mhm.
she had claim to the gem.
Mhm.
That worshipped the Scylla like way before they even found the
Mhm.
sapphires and way before the town ever sprang up. And so she found that out in her history, and that's when she started digging into the backstory and realizing how her people had been wronged. And she was a druid. That's why she could turn into a snake, and that's why she tried to choke out the mayor during that battle. Yeah.
Thank you as well, by the way, Jared, for realizing my absolute worst nightmare. Like, I can't tell you
Yeah.
how scared I
He
am of snakes.
hates
It
snakes.
is like,
Yeah.
it is truly like that for me. That was my true professionalism showing through.
Yeah.
Oh
The
no,
fact that
I
I
was
stayed
watching
on,
Jasper.
like,
he was like, you were freaking out.
Jeremy, there was a scene in Cup of the Caterpillar where it was like right at the beginning, and we were
on
pushing.
logs.
I was under the water pushing a log that had Ongenagama, which is Unati's character, on top of it. We were pushing it, and I was like, and it wasn't moving, and I was like, oh come on, like it's a log, like how hard can it be? And then basically Jeremy was like, yeah, you realize now that you're not actually pushing a log, you're pushing a giant snake. And I literally jumped out of the seat and like refused to sit down.
He was sat here. He launched himself out of the seat. Like launched himself. And I was like,
Yeah,
Right.
it's not the one.
and
I Love it.
I was sat there the whole time waiting for Jasper to be like, no, I'm gonna pull an X card. Like this has to
Yeah,
stop.
yeah, I'm gonna
was
have to. Can
literally
we change
waiting
this to
for him
spiders or something?
to be
Like, can
like,
we?
"Can
Sorry,
this
can we change the whole aesthetic of like this two shot, please? Because I
I love
can't
it.
handle snakes.
I love it.
Yes.
But that made it so much more real, you know,
Yeah, it was
that
fun.
innate fear. Yeah. And the fact that you
Yeah.
use that to your advantage, use that for your performance. I love that.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
It was great fun. It was
Yeah.
great fun. Beautiful game.
Okay, so that's the official ending of the Sapphire Sapphire Lights
PvP.
Festival. Is Elodie keeps the gem.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and just so you know, there were more cultists back in town. So if I had time and you guys went back to town for whatever reason and started to enjoy the festival, you would realize that the cult of Scylla was still alive and well in the town of Claire de Lune. That was going to be kind of
pull
the
into
creepy,
the
the
little
creepy
hook.
cliffhanger. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so we got 10 minutes, and our Patreon people still have a bunch of amazing questions for us. So
Let's do it.
Quick fire questions. Let's do it. Let's go.
I'm gonna skip the Jared questions because I can always answer those later. Let's do Aaron McLeod. In the UK, which is your favorite place to get outdoors? There you go.
Okay.
Not
Oh,
even about
that's-
D&D.
That's okay.
Where do you like to go in the UK?
Where do I like to go in the UK?
To
Brighton
get
is great.
outdoors.
Brighton is
Okay.
great. The beaches in Brighton, they're always a great fun to go
Yeah.
party.
Yeah.
Very, very fun.
How often you guys get together in real life? Like you and Jeremy
It's a
and
pandemic.
Yeah, not often.
It's
not
a
often.
pandemic. Wow,
it'll-
we're getting together. Yeah. Well, what's risen other than to spread a virus? Huh?
I love how your accent changes depending on your mood.
Oh yeah,
It's-
100%.
It's like
I think that's
I'm feeling
that-
happy, so I'm this accent. Now I'm
Yeah, me
sassy. Now
too.
I'm angry.
Angry,
Yeah,
I
I
love
have
it.
several.
I love it.
That
For-
generally I think is a bit of a rule of like I know like a lot of my black friends do the same thing. Like I do the same thing. I go American when I get excited for some reason. I'm like, oh,
my God.
hell yeah! Like I'm like it's like
Say
I
more,
don't know
do more.
why.
I want to hear it.
Like I don't know why. It's super
I so
strange.
wanted there to be a moment where you guys were doing American accents and the cast was doing British accents just
that
to
would've been
confuse
great.
everyone.
That would've been so great.
Yeah.
I always do get nervous. about
Everybody
doing
got
accents in front
intimidated
of-
though. As soon as we found out that you guys were going to be the guest, they were like, "Well, I'm not doing a British accent. There's no way I'm doing a British accent.
I'm
Why
not
would I
even
do-"
British.
it was u-
My
it was
accent's
usually-
South African.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it was.
No, I know. I mean, no one's going to do a South African accent. That's just
Please
a
don't
given in
try. I
general.
will
Yeah.
Oh man.
No, I think. What was the question?
Where do you like to go
outside?
outdoors?
Oh,
Yeah.
my favorite place in the UK actually, since I've ever moved here, it's a place called Bunker 54. It is the second largest paintball arena in the world, second to a place in Canada.
What?
And I love it. I love it
Paintball?
a bit.
I didn't even
Yeah,
know about
I
this.
love-
I'm gonna look it up.
I love paintball. Bunker 54 does paintball, and also they
Paintball's
have like an
super
indoor
fun.
space that does like laser tag. But I love paintball. I used to do shooting at school as a kid, like proper like rifle shooting, and I'm a pretty good shot. I'm a little bit blind now, and I haven't done it in a long time, but I'm really good. People don't like having me on the opposing.
Well, yeah,
paintball team,
paintball
'cause I
hurts if you're
just
good at it.
annihilate everyone. Basically, I just tell my team, right, get me to the highest point. If you get me to the highest point, then you protect me for as much of the game as possible, and make sure that nobody comes up my rear. I
Yeah.
will take out everyone, and then
You're the
move
sniper.
in 10-minute intervals. Like keep moving me, and everyone's dead.
That's a
Wow.
TBH trip happening right now. Me, you, and Jeremy.
Yeah.
We're gonna go play some paintball. We're gonna.
I will
Please.
mess
kill
people up.
everyone. I'm
We're gonna
really
mess people
serious.
up.
I would
paintball.
love to see that.
I love
Yeah.
paintball.
I would love to. I would love to be a part of that.
Same.
Fun.
So okay. Next question. Bradley Potts. That was a question for me, but he does have a question for Jasper. I am also curious if Jasper considered how Jared might play with his character design, like when he had to make the con save. I was holding my breath, and I think we got a bit of a sneak preview of what could have happened with a low roll, huh, Jared? I think that's a little of a question for me, but it's also a question for you. So why don't you take it?
This is which con save is this? Is this the
con save that I had you do when Queen Mab was like, "Which one are you really?" And then you,
Oh, that was
you know.
that was
Yeah.
sexy. That was
Yeah,
sexy.
yeah. I think this was great. I think that this is generally one of, like the best points I find about playing a character, playing anyone when you have a DM that you trust. Because like I'm always like, hey, look, when I make my characters, I'm like to my DM, I'm like, hey, look, here you go. What about this character like excites you and whatever? And I feel like in that moment, you as the DM just took something that I'd made and like found a way to really like test me on it and like do you know what I mean? And put me through something. I was like, as the player, I was like, huh, and because I didn't know, like do you know what I mean? Like there was no real right answer kind of thing, and
Yeah.
there was a thing in my head where I was almost going like, what if she makes me stay like this forever and I lose like my other personalities or and it was and I think that there was a genuine point in my head where like all four voices were like, nope, don't you dare, like I'll kick ass,
no.
like don't do it, like so it was just a great it was a great moment of of DMing, and like a real fun moment as a player to just be like, take the wheel. Like, I don't know. Oh, come on, dice, please.
So the reason why I came up with that in the moment was because, again, Queen Mab is easily jealous, and she saw the power that you had, the capability that you had, that she might even be able to do in some respect, but her changes would be illusions. They wouldn't be real. You're a real changeling that can physically change your form into this other being, including the biology of your body could also change.
Sure.
So because of that, she was like, okay, I want to know who you really are. And in D&D terms, a changeling has kind of this weird alien-like appearance. Like their natural form when they're not assuming someone else is almost kind of like an alien, like the stereotypical alien. And so for your character, because you weren't the stereotypical changeling, that was also kind of Jared the DM going, okay, so what are you really? Like if you had to be one thing, and you can still change it to these other things, you'd still have that power, but your core, what is that? So that was Jared the DM as the NPC asking you that question.
Yeah, and it was great, and it was a difficult question. It was a difficult question to ask, to answer even, and like it was a. But it's like it was the most fun. Like it's the most fun thing because like that was something that I'd never considered in my backstory. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, oh, we are just all of them. Like that's, do you know what I mean? That is who we are. Like, and the idea of like what is at the core of that was like, whoa, boy, this is a deep question. This is a deep cut.
Yeah, because if you're all four of those, then does that mean that your core person, or your core body, is an amalgamation of all four? So are you a monster? Are you a monster? Are you this weird thing that's got 8 arms and 8 legs and that? Yeah. Anyways, let's move on. We could talk about that for hours.
For sure.
Aaron McLeod, in past campaigns you've played in or run, are there any fun TPKs or total party kills that you would like to share?
Whoa.
Do you have any? TPKs are total party kills, so that's where everybody does.
Yeah.
No. I don't think so. I don't think I've ever had a full TPK. Oh, actually, no, I did. For this was like a one shot though. This was like very, very, very silly.
Yeah.
The campaign that the 2 shot that I did for NADPOD, I did for anyone who's not listened to it, it's basically set in a world in which everyone gets, like, all the main characters get shrunk down to like become like microscopically small. And part of the reasoning for this was because they all have level 20 characters, and I wanted to set up an environment in which a level 20 character could still get like 1 hit by like everyday things. Like it just gets stepped on and would take like 200 points of damage.
Sure.
And basically what happens, I was like, I got like Jeremy and a group of friends together, and I was like, hey, I would want to just play test this thing just to give it a run to see how it goes. And basically they ended up getting eaten by a little child. Like this little like really vindictive like child with a magnifying glass came over and started trying to like burn them like they were ants. And they decided to mess about with the child instead of just getting out of there.
Oh, no.
And the child picked one of them up by like the leg and just bit into it for like 200 points of damage, and they were all like, "What?"
So,
and I was like,
on Titan.
"You are."
So
Effectively,
Aaron's mom, right?
Effectively, it was Attack on Titan, and it was like, and it was basically just like, and they were like, "What? Why?" And I was like, "Well, because you are literally the size of an ant.
Yeah.
Like it's so easy to squash the ant." Like, so that was very, very fun. That was very, very fun.
But I have damage resistance.
Nah,
Okay.
not against like crushing. You don't. So.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's find a good one for Unati. Which DR customer would? Beaker Parr asks, which TDR cast member would you most like to get into your home game? So if you had a choice, and I'll make it more specific for you, Unati, if that helps. If you were running a game and you had to choose one of our main characters in our main storyline to be in your game.
Can I pick Jeff? Do you
Yeah,
like
you
any
can
of
or
Jeff's
Jeff
NPCs?
or Jeff, sure. Yeah, or any of Jeff's NPCs, any of the characters that you know.
Honestly, Katie.
Sure.
yeah,
Sure.
for sure. Yeah.
That level of chaos, like in any like devising environment or like anything, I just want somebody who's just like gonna not take me as seriously as I'm taking myself.
Okay.
I just want
All right.
somebody to come in and be like, this is D&D and like this is what we're doing. And I really,
Sure.
really appreciated like playing with them, and she was just amazing. Like
Yeah.
just because I am usually like cast as like a dramatic actor, and like I love to play like dramatic stories. I need someone to remind me that this is also silly. Like
Sure.
just be like, it's actually also fun. So that would be
Yeah.
my first choice, like full on.
Of course. The one thing, and we talked about this before the show, the one thing that Katie always brings to the table is that she's not playing D&D because she's not a hardcore Dungeons and Dragons player. She is playing her character in an improvised setting
Yeah.
with rules that happen to be D&D rules. And half the time she's like, I want to do this thing. I don't think it's in the rules. And Jeff is like, usually he's like, rule of cool. Okay.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
That's
Let's see
what
what
I want.
happens.
Like that's
Yeah.
what I want.
Yeah.
I want somebody to like muck about. Yeah.
Cool. Spider Burn. When it comes to playing with folks of different cultures, UK versus USA, have you noticed any idiosyncrasies?
Huh. That's funny.
So do Brits do anything in particular more often than people from the States, or vice versa?
I tend to find that people from sorry, do you want to go ahead, Jasper?
No, you go. I'm still thinking. Yeah.
I tend to find that like if I'm playing with like American players or like people who are like not from this cold wet country, I tend
hey, back off my cold wet country, Nazi.
this cold wet country sounds
Yeah,
seasoning.
it's grim. It's grim. It's August. It's raining.
I know, right? I love it though. I tend to find that there's like a slight like more openness and silliness around it. Whereas like if I'm meeting like generally meeting people who like want to play D&D like in the UK, I'm like they're always like, oh, is it Lord of the Rings? I'm like, no. It really doesn't have to be like. And also for me, like I went to King's College in Grahamstown, which is about a 2.5-hour drive away from Hogsback, which is where J.R.R. Tolkien lived and like based The Hobbit on. So I have been reading that stuff since I was like 11, forced to at school, and I just can't describe a leaf ever again when I never describe a leaf. So I feel like for me, like the strange kind of idiosyncrasies that I tend to find is that I usually find that sometimes players tend to be slightly more like gregarious or more open, which might be very like general, as whereas I kind of have to like draw things out a little bit depending. Oh, and also like I find that it's easier to role play with like people across the pond, whereas like usually like my British folk are like math crunchy number people.
Really?
They want to crunch the numbers.
Yeah.
So they view
like-
it as more of like almost like a board game more so, or a tactical game.
Yeah, don't take that from me because that's just the games that I have played, and I haven't
Yeah, of
played
course.
any.
Of course.
But
This
like,
is just
that's
your
just my
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my experience that usually, unless they want to be Gandalf, they're like they've pulled out the calculator and the protractor, and they're doing math. And I'm just,
Yeah, we got
I
some rules
don't
lawyers over
care.
here for sure.
I don't
Really?
care.
Yeah.
That's so
care.
surprising.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
surprising. Jasper?
My thing is like I feel like I vibe a lot with American people just because I feel like I talk like very fast. I get very hype about
Yeah.
stuff, and a lot of like English people are like, "You're a lot, man." You know what I mean?
You
Whereas
need
whenever I
to
get
tone it down.
Yeah. Whereas
Yeah.
whenever I get around American people, they're like, "Yes, my dude, let's go."
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, you know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
And
If
so I
you
feel
think
like
I'm
when
a lot, go find less.
yeah, like
Whoa.
yes, that, I
You
like
need
that.
that
I'm
on
gonna
a
use it.
shirt, girl.
We need that on a shirt. Check out the Three Black Halflings merch store.
Yeah.
We don't have one, but there's gonna be one now with that.
For sure. For
But
sure.
no, that's what I would say is like I do enjoy playing with Americans just because I tend to find that like we get hyped together. Like I get very
Yeah.
excitable. You know what I mean?
Especially when it's something you can nerd out or geek out about. I definitely
Yeah.
agree with you there. Yeah.
Like, don't watch
people's
anime
real
with me.
personalities start to really come forward,
Yeah.
and they let, in my experience, they let a lot of the the falsehoods or the facade or the stoicism kind of fall to the wayside because they love it. They're passionate about it. It's something they're excited about, you know? Yeah.
It's
I get like endlessly hyped when like other players are having like interactions and something cool happens or whatever. Like if you watch the video, I'm sure there'll be points where you see me just like losing my mind. And I'm not even in the scene. I'm just like, oh, that's so cool.
Like, don't try watch anime with me. Like, don't.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've like
anime.
been on a date when I've like tried to like introduce like Demon Slayer to someone, and then I'm like, oh, watch the spider fight between Tanjiro and that big boss, and then like when he kills him, I'm like, yes, he's the Demon Slayer, and I just get massively hyped. I'm like, oh wait, hang on, I have to be adorable.
So even the theater people in the UK when they play
that's
D&D,
a different breed.
Yeah, that's a different thing. But then also like they are very like a lot of them I know are like very theater people, and even they're like, what's D&D? Like how do you? And I'm like, really? You know what D&D?
One of my favorite things to do when I was in school, and we have to wrap things up, but this has been such a blast. You guys are just, I mean, I could talk to you guys for hours, honestly.
Same.
I feel bad for Jessica because I'm just
so
like facilitating you two, but I love everything you have to say, and you've been adding so much to the conversation. I can see why you guys have a successful podcast, because you'd be like, hey, potato, let's talk about it, and then we would talk for 30 minutes.
We have a food episode. It was one of the it's one of the best episodes
if we're
we've done.
talking like thrice cooked potatoes and duck fat,
Sure.
or vegan,
Oh my God.
I can do it 3 times over in different types of first rapeseed oil, then olive oil, then into butter. Like if you want to talk about potatoes, I can talk about potatoes.
Yeah.
I can talk about potatoes. I love potatoes. This is why all my characters love food. Sorry, continue,
this is what
Jared.
happens.
For sure. For sure. I don't even remember what I was gonna say. What were we just talking about? I'm thinking about
You
potatoes.
were wrapping up.
Potatoes? I mean,
Just an example, and then I ran with it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Oh, the theater thing. So one of the things that I love to do, I will say this. One of the things that I love to do when I was in undergrad and when I was in grad school is instead of going out and finding D&D nerds or finding hardcore gamers, I would go and find actors and improvisers that were kind of interested in trying out an RPG, but had never really done it, or maybe they had a bad experience. Either or. I would take those people into the fold and I would go, here is a very simple way of playing this game so that numbers and number crunching and all that stuff doesn't scare them off. And I don't even necessarily show them rule books. I'll give them maybe a character sheet that's got some basic stats on it. And then we just roll with it. And it becomes storytelling and communal storytelling and role playing and acting. And those are some of the most fun sessions that I've ever had, because you get those people that instead of asking, well, what are my powers? What are my skills? Well, what box can I put myself in to restrict myself so that I don't think outside of the box and I don't come up with interesting creative ways of dealing with situations? I can only do these things. They're all Katie's essentially. Yeah. They look at the situation and go, well, this is what my character would do, or this is who my character is. And it's like, well, we don't have any stats for, bunny people. So I guess we're just
we do now.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
now.
I love a nonsensicality. Yes.
Yeah, but that's how that got created. Somewhere along the line, someone said, I want to be a bunny person. And a dungeon master said yes. And they created the bunny race. And now we have bunny people.
Yeah. And it's what you strive to get back to. It's the reason why I think I create characters like CC. Because I'm like, I wonder how far I could push this in an attempt to get back to a point where I don't think about, I still can't help myself. I create very mechanically good characters because I now know how to do it, and it's intoxicating. I know I could do really good damage or whatever. But I think that's now what I strive to do, is to go back to the point where I'm a new player and I can kind of get out of that headspace and just create anything because it's great fun.
Yeah, it's exciting. Me, Jasper will attest. As long as there's knives, I'm happy.
As long as there's knives and food.
Knives and food.
I remember when we
usually
did the
a cat
episode.
as well.
Yeah,
either a cat or has a cat.
Knives and food.
Or is a cat.
I'm very simple. I'm very, very simple. I know what I like.
Yeah.
And I stick to it.
I love it.
I remember like
love
the
it.
first episode, Jasper, like as I was describing my character, he read, yeah, knives. I was like,
Yeah, there it
good."
is.
He's like,
There's
"Yeah."
knives. There's knives. Yeah, I actually think if you watch back, I'm trying not to laugh because I'm like, there it is. There's the knives.
I'll always find a creative way to use them.
Mm.
Sometimes
I mean,
a
knives are handy.
Sometimes a necessity.
Knives
Who
are very
knows?
handy.
They're very useful.
Ask Sif.
and practical. Yeah, like it's totally normal during most medieval games to be walking around with a dagger or a knife. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what you
Sure.
ate with. So yeah.
Sure.
Well, unfortunately, we have to wrap up the show. Yeah, I honestly, I could easily talk to all three of you for hours and hours and hours. But I'm sure after a while we would all be like, well, we have to go feed our pets or
I have to
You
go
know.
feed myself.
Just
yeah,
that
eat
too.
ourselves. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
yeah.
Gotta
But
get some
I'm so
potatoes.
glad we got the chance to talk to you guys again today.
Yeah.
Little extra treat to get to hang out with you guys again, and hopefully
Yeah.
we get to do it again soon.
Yeah,
That'd
I
be
just
great,
want
yeah.
to say thank you so much. Like I said, Dodderon was one of the first, if not the first, like TTRPG show that I listened to. I've been such a huge fan from day one. Like you guys were all amazing, and it's been very, very awesome
Thank you.
to get to be on this. And
Yeah.
thank you to the community for being lovely and
Yes, thank you,
commenting nice
everybody.
things and like being like supportive of us coming on this show and welcoming us to the DR fam.
Couldn't be happier. When Jeff
Absolutely.
suggested you
Great.
guys and I looked you up and I was like, okay, let's do it. And then you guys said yes. And as soon as we started the show, I was just like, this is awesome.
Yeah,
So thank you.
yeah,
Thank-
could not
no,
be.
Thank you very much, guys. You guys have been really, really amazing, and thank you for bringing in, a small town girl from Maqaqwa, Yabulela. Engosi, you're all amazing. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Have a wonderful time in Romania, my dear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Is it gonna be cold? I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Okay.
I
it's
want to
gonna be
see
cold.
pictures though.
It is
I'm
gonna be
cold. I'm gonna have so
following
many
you on your
pictures.
social media just for the Romania pictures.
Yeah,
So
I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
doing a second a day, like from the
Mm.
point that I start flying off. I'm gonna do a second a day. I think.
Yeah, if
For
anyone's
sure.
wondering why Unati is not as much Three Black Halflings anymore, it's because she's going to Romania, okay?
Oh yeah. Like I booked a gig and like
For
I'm
work. For
Yeah,
work.
For work.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for a very cool reason. For a
Yeah.
very cool reason.
Yeah. She's become a vampire and she wants to go
Mhm.
see her home country.
Yeah.
She's living
Yeah.
she's living out her vampire dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and I'm
happening.
loving it.
That'll be your guys' next RPG after the one you're finishing now, is you can do a whole vampire thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say
Yeah.
no. And maybe
I
you
would
want
love to do
maybe
it.
you
I
want to
would
come
love
along,
for it.
Jared? Maybe you want to be in that season?
Yeah, except
Sure.
we're not using the vampire masquerade system. It just drives me nuts.
Oh, we don't
yeah,
need
okay,
to.
that's fine.
We don't need
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
Yeah, there's easier ones to do.
Plenty ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone just
homebrew
commented
something.
saying teeth knives.
Yes, exactly. I love you, whoever you are. I love you.
That was
They're
just
cheap
Jules.
knives.
Just
Ah.
Jules, thank you so much.
Thank you, Just Jules. You've made my night. Teeth knives.
All right,
That's
so
why
we'll,
Unati likes vampires.
we'll be back on Wednesday to return to the main story, the main campaign. That's at the same time, same place as it always is, at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you again for joining us today. And if you stick around, we're going to send a dungeon raid over to that bronze girl. You may recognize her from Relics and Rarities. She's huge in the gaming world, so give her a little hello from the dungeon run, and we will see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Woo!
Bye.
Bye.